What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog. Another fun video for you guys. This one we're in a Dimir list. Yep, we got a Lurrus deck. However, we're not running Lurrus as our companion because we do have some 3-drops we want to run in the main. So we are just running 2 copies of Lurrus here in the main deck and not as our companion. Of course, Lurrus is a 3/2 lifelinker for 3 mana. And each permanent, during your turn we can cast spells with mana cost 2 or less from our graveyard. So what we're trying to do with this actually is a Thassa's Oracle self-mill deck. So we're trying to use a bunch of 1 and 2 drop creatures, kind of mill ourselves, and then use a Thassa's Oracle to win the game. Because if, say 1/3 for blue, and we look at the top X cards of our library, where X is our devotion to blue, we can keep one of those cards on top of our library. However, if X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you win the game. So we're trying to self-mill until we get just enough devotion to where Thassa's Oracle can come down and be the finishing piece. So we're pretty split between blue and black spells. So we definitely do need to get the devotion. So devotion cut is going to be exceptionally high, but so you'll really need to rely on self-mill to get your library down to like say less than 10 cards. Probably about 5 or 6 is where you about want to be, where you can finally win the game. But we do have some fantastic ways of doing that. Of course, Lurrus gets creatures back, and then there's another 3-drop here at the top end. We got 2 copies of Ashiok. So it's a 3 mana 5 loyalty planeswalker. Your opponent can't search their library, so that's pretty cool. Not too many decks in standard. They're really trying to abuse that ability though. However, what we're mostly concerned about is the -1 to target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into our graveyard. Of course, we're going to choose ourselves, and then we exile our opponent's graveyard. So even though we're targeting ourselves with the self-mill, it still exiles our opponent's graveyard, which is of course fantastic in the current standard for other Lurrus decks, and even like the cycling decks and things like that. We can exile their graveyard as a main deck answer. And so some additional ways to self-mill, of course, Merfolk Secretkeeper is a nice 1-drop. Doesn't really synergize with Lurrus that well. Otherwise, it does synergize towards our Thassa's Oracle by having a blue. And then, of course, we can pay the sorcery speed from our hand to put the top 4 cards of our library into our graveyard. And then just having it down as a 0/4 blocker. We're not really trying to win the game with creatures, but there are certain situations where you actually can. That has actually happened to me, so it's kind of interesting that you can kind of grind out your opponent and actually win with kind of a damage that way. We also have 4 copies of Wall of Ruins. It doesn't mill, but however, it does let you scry, which you do have to sequence correctly if you do have a kind of a self-mill effect as well. But you do this after you have done your self-mill effects, and then you scry to see what your next draw is. Otherwise, it's perfectly fine to play on turn 1 to fix your next draw with the scry 1, and then have a 4 toughness blocker down to kind of stall out your opponent. And then, of course, all 4 Thassa's Oracle. Then we also have 4 Wall of Lost Thought as another 4 toughness defender. And when it enters, we put the top 4 cards of our library into our graveyard. Of course, this is fantastic to go back with Lurrus and just keep milling ourselves out 4 at a time. We do need some removal here, so a couple of Heartless Acts. It's fantastic to destroy a creature at instant speed for 2 mana. However, if the creature has counters on it, we cannot destroy the creature. We have to remove up to 3 counters from it instead. So it can be a little awkward as a removal piece, but most of the creatures it does hit just fine. So I think 2 copies is where you want to be with that. So running 4 copies of Mire Triton, the Death Touch, and the Life Gain is fantastic. And we also put 2 cards of our library into our graveyard. So not as good as the Wall of Lost Thoughts where it puts 4, but 2, and then gaining life and having a Death Touch creature on board so your opponent is reluctant to attack into you is fantastic. And then, of course, we also have 4 copies of Priest of the Forgotten Gods. This is kind of one of the ways you can actually win with creatures. As it's a 1/2 for 2 mana, so not fantastic. However, you tap and sacrifice 2 other creatures, and then your opponent loses 2 life and sacrifices a creature. You get 2 black mana, and you draw a card. So this is just a fantastic way to kind of slow down your opponent's board state by getting rid of their creatures, and you can sacrifice your 0/4 defenders and things like that you can just reanimate later on with Lurrus or some of our other spells. And then we also get to draw a card and get some black mana to maybe cast a Mire Triton or a Heartless Act or something like that. And then for submission removal, we've got 3 copies of Murderous Rider. So the Heartless Act a little bit conditional. Murderous Rider is not. We do lose 2 life. However, we do obviously gain life with Mire Triton and things like that. And then, of course, the Murderous Rider does have lifelink, so that's not a big deal. But having hard removal for creatures and planeswalkers in the main deck feels like the right call. So running all three of these. I was on 3 Lurrus at first, and that felt pretty good, but I think just having the additional removal of Murderous Riders, since we are running these kind of long, grindy games, trying to self-mill ourselves, I think this is probably the way to go. And of course, we do have ways to get these back if we mill them, or if they die in combat, or removal, I should say. So I think just 2 of each of these legendary creatures and planeswalkers is fine. And for some, obviously, recursion, we have 3 copies of Call of the Death Door, because that's kind of a staple in these Lurrus decks. 3 copies, I think, feels right. 3 mana sorcery, return 2 creature cards with total mana cost 3 or less. So Lurrus is a 3-drop, so we can pay this to get a Lurrus back, or more often we're going to get like a 1-drop and a 2-drop with this. So the total mana cost will then be 3. Of course, you could also do 3 1-drops, but that doesn't usually happen very often. Typically, you're just going to either get back a Lurrus or a 1 and a 2-drop. So obviously, Priest of the Forgotten God is a magnet for removal, so that'd be a fantastic target to get back. And then you get back your Wall of Runes or Secret Keeper, just to have additional creatures on board to sacrifice to the Priest, or just to block out your opponent's creatures. And for some additional recursion, we have 2 Aid the Fallen, since we are running the Ashioks. This lets us bring back a creature and a planeswalker to your hand. So having to come back to our hand, not the battlefield, with Call of Death Door can be a little awkward. However, the Merfolk Secretkeeper does have the sorcery side adventure, so that's a fantastic target to bring back to your hand, and then be able to cast the adventure side of it, and then play it down as a creature as mana allows. We are pretty tight on the mana since we are kind of a low curve, topping out at 3. But we do have the 1 Castle Vantress and 1 Castle Locthwain. The game isn't going to go long, so being able to scry and draw cards is going to be fantastic. Hopefully we don't mill these, but we are just running just a couple copies. Then 6 islands, 6 swamps, all for Watery Graves, and I think I like the Fabled Passage over the Temple of Deceit, just so we can kind of play, hopefully on curve as much as possible, and the Fabled Passage being able to crack it and get the fixing for the double blue, double black, and things like that also comes in handy. So that's pretty much the main deck. And going to the sideboard, we have a couple copies of Soul Guide Lantern for some one-sided graveyard hate. As when it enters, we exile a card from our opponent's graveyard. Then we can tap to sacrifice it and exile your opponent's entire graveyard. Or we can pay 1 to sack it and draw a card. So the Soul Guide Lantern is fantastic against all the graveyard shenanigans going on, such as like Zenith's Flare. It makes them do 0 damage. And obviously other Lurrus decks that are pretty popular right now. And then Aether Gust, of course, hits all the big red and green spells. Essence Scatter mostly going to come in against like Mutate and things like that. Negate to kind of protect our board state from like sweepers. 3 Agonizing Remorse for those mid-range and control decks to hit their hand before they can do anything. 2 more Heartless Acts, just because it's such an efficient removal spell if your opponent isn't running anything with counters on it, like Mutate or anything like that. Heartless Act is a fantastic removal option. And then, of course, Legion's End for those other kind of aggressive style of decks, as being able to exile their 1 and 2 mana creatures in multiples from not only the battlefield, but their hand is pretty fantastic. Alright, so that's Lurrus's Oracle. Let's jump into some best of 3 and see how we do. So sequencing can be a bit of an issue. This obviously deck does take patience, since you are trying to mill yourself 60 cards. Before your opponent can do anything about it. We do have lots of nice recursion and things like that, so we should be able to grind out pretty well against most decks. Alright, up against Sosi Ka. Double Swamp. Well, we do have the Triton and the Double Priest, so I don't hate that. And then any blue source will get us these cards. Mulligan's a little risky, but we do have 3 playable cards, so I think we'll actually keep this. And Ashiok is fine too. So we could go Priest, and then if we draw an untapped blue source, then we'll actually have creatures to play out. But our opponent's showing double swamps, they probably have removal, but that's fine. We do have a second Priest of Forgotten Gods. But this way, if they just play a creature, we do have the removal immediately, so that's fine. I think we'll just go ahead and run out the let's run out the Mire Triton first to mill, and then we'll wall runes to scry. So we don't want to screw ourselves up with scrying and then milling. Another Triton. Probably just another blue source here, I think. Pass turn. We'll just hold up the priest to maybe sacrifice if they do play a creature. That's kind of odd they haven't played anything yet. Okay, Dread Presence. Kind of expecting that. We'll go and do that now. Definitely don't want that down. That can pick off all of our dudes. Get the 2 black mana, which doesn't really do a whole lot. It's nothing to Heartless Act, but that's fine. Alright. So we have Murderous Rider open as well. So let's just Ashiok.
Welcome.
Get the self-mill turbo mode going. Let's attack for once since Priest didn't really do anything else. So we're up to 22, they're down to 17, but obviously the Dread Presence can gain them a bunch of life. But they played Swamp first, so that tells me they don't have anything. Just murder, that's fine. Would like some additional blue sources here. Just mill. We'll go ahead and Secretkeeper and Priest, I guess. We need to keep an eye on how many Thassa's Oracles we've milled away. Erebos, pretty nasty. Death Door can get some stuff back, that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and mill first, see what we hit.
Your final terror is upon you.
Well, we could hold open. I think I'm fine with just the Secretkeeper and Priest here. If we do go for a creature, we have the Priest that can answer it. If they have multiple creatures, we can Priest and Heartless Act as well. This is a little bit of a problem I've noticed is you do kind of get screwed on mana at times. Sorin's Thirst, sure. So hit the non-summon sicked one. Sorin's Thirst seems like such a mediocre removal spell when you have things like Heartless Act. Master Curl does nothing. Nasty card though, so let's get rid of it. You can pay life and draw a card, that's fine. We're on to 27 already, so we're in a pretty decent spot. Just like that, down to 19. We're going to attack in, just in case this game kind of stalls out and the damage is relevant. Okay, they can Omen the Dead, which does nothing because they don't have a graveyard. We do get to Scry though for 4 mana. Top. Okay, so they like what they saw. Let's go ahead and mill again. We'll find some lands. We'll go into our graveyard. Alright, so what do we got here? We have 1 Thassa's Oracle, 2 Thassa's Oracles, so we still have 2 more in the deck. All of our lands are going to the graveyard. We'll just attack in, hold up the Heartless Act. So we're down to 10 cards, so we're in a pretty decent spot. They can play a Swamp here and trigger, but we can Heartless Act. We can draw a card with Erebos, that's fine. So as long as we can get down to a decent spot, the Call of the Death Door can bring back the Thassa's Oracle. But depending on what we draw, that's probably still a couple turns away, because we just have the 1 Devotion right now, so that'll only be 3. Thassa's Oracle is, of course, 2 blue mana, it counts itself. Yeah, your Dread Presence is dead, dude. I'm not sure what you're trying to accomplish here. You're going to sacrifice it to... Witch's Oven, that's a pretty nasty card. Okay, so we can double Secretkeeper. Now we have some devotion going on. That's 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we're just a couple turns away from potentially doing something. Okay, Gravewaker can bring something back for 7 mana. Well, I think we'll just kill that now. They can Witch's Oven, that's fine. We just want it off the battlefield. 8 cards left. Really don't care about having a Murderous Rider 2/3. So we get some life back, but we don't care about life total. We're just trying to mill ourselves. So 8 cards, and we have 5 blue mana with a Thassa's Oracle with Call of Death Orb, bring back Thassa's Oracle. There's a 2-drop, so we could also bring back a another 1-drop, and that would give us the necessary blue devotion. Let's go ahead and aid the fallen. Bring back a wall, I guess, and Ashiok. So 7 or most down to 3.
Dream big tonight.
Thassa's Oracle wins it next turn.
Leave you with one.
Let's have some way to answer the Call of the Death Door. Play at the wall. Oh, Thassa's Oracle on top, that's pretty cool. Okay, we'll bring back a Wall of Runes, I guess. And Thassa's Oracle. That's a good game. Sure, you can have Death Touch, you can have Menace. Sure, doesn't matter. Submit 0, doesn't matter. Alright, Thassa's Oracle. Ooh, taking down Mono Black. Alright, so Dread Presence is pretty nasty. Not really too much we can do about the Erebos. Gave him a little bit of card advantage, but it seemed like it really mattered too much. Do we even change anything here? Could try to bring in more removal. Obviously, they're going to have a bunch of removals, so it's going to suck to lose our stuff, but if we can kind of keep them off of Gravewaker and Dread Presence, then I think that'll give us enough of an advantage, and we still have the Call of the Death Door to bring back all of our relevant stuff. Maybe we'll shave a Murderous Rider and leave 1 Aid the Fallen in, so we can get back in Ashiok, potentially. With all those 2-mana removal spells, probably trim off 1 Rider, since they don't seem to have any Planeswalkers. They could bring in like a Davriel, but then it doesn't like it's too fantastic against us. It's not great, but we can Fabled Passage turn 1 for a blue source. Okay, Fabled Passage. Alright, Cauldron Familiar, the most annoying card in Standard. Good thing is we don't care about life total. We have an island. Alright, I guess we'll start with wall. Okay, we know that Lurrus. It's unfortunate. That's alright. We have another wall next turn. Okay, so they got rid of our Thassa, but we have ways of getting it back, so I'm not sure why they were so happy to do that, but it doesn't matter to us. We got ways of getting it back. We got Priest to slow them down. They can't attack into us. Pay, get a Priest down. Do we want anything back yet? There's a Lurrus, but no Ashiok, so I think we'll save that. Could kill the Cauldron Familiar before they get the Oven out, because that could obviously win them the game. Just that stupid Oven Cat combo. Oathsworn Knight. think I'm fine with the priest here. These 2 walls did their job. They probably sacked their 1/1. Another priest. Do we play the priest? Yeah, let's play the priest. And then we'll kill your 4/4. Okay, your turn. That's why priest is so darn good in this list. So we'll run out the Lurrus. What do we got? Secretkeeper? No. Go to combat. Attack with one of them. Pass the turn. So you brought in a bunch of cheesy discard effects on our self-mill deck. Sure, you get your Oswor Knight back. On top of your library. A banner. Okay, so down to 1 card in hand. 4 mana open, 5 mana open, I guess, with the banner, and still no plays. That's curious. What do I want to do here? Let's attack with Lurrus and 1 priest. Play the wall and Triton. Could have a Ritual of Slit, which would be pretty nasty, but if they're running all these creatures, I don't think that's too likely. So we got 1, 2... We have 3 oracles in our graveyard. So scared of that right away. I think the 2 walls can go. It's one of the situations where we might actually win with card advantage over creatures over anything else. So we'll just attack in. Just like that, they're down to 6. So we got 4 mana open. Alright, it's just wall. So that's our Lurrus play. And then we still have a another priest. Sweet. Pass a turn. So they're just like that, they're down to 6, and then we can priest any creature, and they're basically dead. So yeah, you guys got to see the power of a Priest of Forgotten Gods and Lurrus, and then just playing all that removal because we do everything we can to just kind of grind and stay alive. So that was pretty sweet. Game 1, we did the self-mill plan and got there with Thassa's Oracle, and then Game 2, even against all the discard effects and all the shenanigans from Mono Black, we were able to just grind them out with Priest of Forgotten Gods. They had to sacrifice all of their creatures. We had removal for the remaining creatures and just attack it in 2, 3, 1 at a time, and yeah, just grind them out that way. Can win you the game as well. So alright guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.